LILIBETH, and today I will be discussing the subject entrepreneurship. So for now, let us focus on quarter 2 module 1, which is about product development. First, we need to know what is the content standard, the performance standard, the competency, and the learning outcomes of this quarter 2 module 1. Our content standard is the learner demonstrates understanding of environment and market in one's locality or hometown. The performance standard is the learner independently creates a business vicinity map reflective of potential market in one's locality or town. The competency is demonstrate understanding of the fundamentals of product development. Therefore, our learning outcomes for this module is, upon the completion of the given unit, the senior high school learners are expected to appreciate the 4 sequential steps in product development. So let's go and understand quarter 2, module 1. First, in this module, you need to know and you have to answer what I need to know. It is shown in the module. Then, you have to read what I know. After which, you have to do what's in. So in what's in, this is more on the review of the previous lesson. So here, on the previous lesson, you were talking about brand name, which is the trademark. So when we say brand name, which is a trademark of a company, it leaves an impact to the target market, and it gives an edge against the competitors. So, follow the instruction and do the activity in what's in. After which, you have to read what's new and what is it. So, in what is it, the main lesson is about product development. So, when we say product development, it is a process testing and commercializing a product or service with the ultimate objective of solving the problem of the primary target market. So here, we will be talking about the 4 essential steps of product development. First, it is developing a product or service description. The second one is creating a prototype. Third, testing the prototype. And the fourth one is validating the market. So, let us discuss each of this: developing a product or service description, creating a prototype, testing a prototype, and validating the market. So, let's go. Slide. So, the first step is developing a product or service description. This describes how a product or service works and how it benefits the customers. It should directly address the primary target market in a personal manner using everyday language. So here, you have to put your show on the customers. You have to put yourself on the customer show. Okay? So on the second one, it should highlight the features that will cater to the customer's needs or address the customer's problem. So here, you have to emphasize the features of your product addressing, or shall we say, a feature that will answer the customer's problem. The last one is it should be realistic. Superlative should be used for the product description. So, a realistic product development is very important for your customer's needs. So, in order to meet your customer's needs, you should follow these 3. Okay, let's go to another slide. The second step is creating a prototype of the product or service that you have to deliver to your target market. Here, it describes how a product or your service works and how it benefits your customers. So what is a prototype? So when we say prototype, it is primarily a model or a sample of a new product, or service that is created to test a product, concept, or service process. Then it enables the entrepreneur, you, to engage in trial and error that provides room for improvements and refines the functionality of the product design or service process. This also provides the entrepreneur a window to test the performance and specification of various materials and services in the process of the making the product. Another thing, it helps the entrepreneur effectively describe the product or service to the product team. And this will elicit respect from key holders and customers and that gives to the entrepreneur. So, if you have question about prototyping, you may also refer to any other Google sites that talks about prototyping of product or services. So this is a sample prototype. First, you have to define the prototype. So here, it has been drawn a donut. Then another one is, after defining, you have to, what shall we say, examine the viable product, and then you come up with a final product to be offered to your target market. So that is prototyping. So creating a product, a sample product of your creating a sample of your product or services to be offered to the target market. So that is prototyping. Okay, another thing is the third step. You have to test the product prototype. So after creating a sample product or having a prototype of your product to be offered to the market, you have to test the product prototype. Here, it describes how a product or service works and how it benefits to the customers. So when we say customers, it is your target market. So we have already explained what is prototyping, right? So let's go to the next slide. So here, we have to offer testing methods here. First, you have to do the focus group discussion. What is then a focus group discussion? Here, the participants will provide relevant insights about the new product or the service. The objective of the focus group discussion is to identify errors, the deficiencies and issues that may impede the success of the product offering. The participants also need to provide suggestions and practical solutions on how to improve these deficiencies. The second testing method is legality and ethical test. So prior to launching the product, the entrepreneur, the entrepreneur must ensure that the product or the service complies with all the relevant laws and business. For example, food products must be cleared first with the Bureau of Food and Drugs, which is the BFAD, before they are offered to the market or to the public. So as an entrepreneur, you must also make sure that manufacturing, production of goods, or offering of the service does not generate ethical issues such as being threats to the health, the safety, and the environment. So another testing method is safety test. So what is a safety test? The entrepreneur must ensure that the product is safe to use, safe to be consumed, either a food or a beverage, and safe to be applied if it is a cosmetic product. So the product should not in any way can harm your customer or put the customer in peculiar situations. So in services, the entrepreneur must ensure that the product or the process to be performed by the service provider must not be detrimental to the safety of your customers. Okay, let's go to the fourth testing methods. The fourth testing method is product costing test. The entrepreneur must examine every stage of the manufacturing process or every process of the service blueprint to evaluate and finalize the cost involved in making the product. So this time, when the entrepreneur can match the expected cost versus his or her budget, then modification in the manufacturing process or service blueprint can still be made at this point to align with the cost objective of the entrepreneur. Remember, it is our goal to have profit, so we must do the costing properly. The fourth testing method is component test. Each component of the product or the service we will be offering should be tested independently to identify component failures for goods or service failures for services. Any failure identified must be redesigned and tested again until it becomes fully operational and functional. So remember, every component should be tested. Once it failed, then it should be redesigned and tested again and again until it becomes fully operational and functional. The sixth testing method is competitors' product or service test. So here, the entrepreneur must test a similar line of products of the competitors' product or service itself to comply and get the best practices to be applied to the new product or the new service. Okay, so I think that steps in testing the product or testing your prototype is now clear. So let's go to the validation of market acceptability. So when we say market acceptability, it is more on how or is your product acceptable to the market? So this is more on testing the market acceptability of your product. First, you have to ask this question. Number one, will the primary target market like the product or the service you will be offering? The second one, will the primary target market buy the product or the service when it is already in the market? So these two questions must be addressed to before you have to offer your product to the market. So what you should do? First, an entrepreneur will use the most effective, no, the most effective strategic marketing research tool. The survey, the observation, interviews, online surveys, it could be an email or a combination of these research tools wherein the entrepreneur can get the most relevant answers in the cheapest way possible. Remember, costing is part of your business. So you must do what is best and the cheapest one. The second one is you have to prepare relevant, open-ended questions in doing your questions that answer the objectives given above. Do not go around the bush and be straight to the point. You have to keep your questions to a minimum because the target market might get bored and not finish the whole questionnaire. Remember, you have to get the information needed for your marketing. Another one is you have to, being an entrepreneur, you have to find the market experts who also target the same market but are not directly competing with the entrepreneur. For instance, a market expert sells cars to a specific market segment because they almost have the same demographic data requirements. So, the entrepreneur can use this data to improve the product or service. Another thing is you have to collate all the data analyzed then and prepare a summative report that answers the objective questions that were mentioned earlier. Remember, in your planning, you know you must identify your objective in your plan. Okay, so after which, in this module, you have to answer what's more. So, what's more talks about the product development evaluation. Here, you have to name your product. Then, you have to identify and know your product development stages here. Is it satisfied to your customer? Did your customer answer it? Um, are they very satisfied, or are they satisfied or not? So it is very important. So after doing the what's more part of the module, you have to know and you have to do what's more. Okay, so the last one is you have to do what I can do. Here, you have to develop your own product. Remember, our topic for this module is product development. So you need to follow the instructions given. First, conceptualize a product. Reflect any product you want to introduce in the market. Second, pinpoint your value proposition. Here you have to state on how to convince a possible customer why your service or your product will be or more important than any of the competitors. The third one is you have to realize your concept. Here you have to prepare materials or ingredients to actualize your product. And then that is now the fourth one, you have to produce a prototype of your product. So this is now the making of an actual product or service. The fifth one is conduct a product testing in your home. So let the members of your family evaluate your product before offering it to the market. Another one is you take note of the suggestions for improvement. Write all of this in a small notebook or paper so that you can summarize and you will never forget or miss any of those. The seventh one is you have to plan on how to perform your market acceptability validation. What type of market acceptability process you have to implement? Is it an online survey, a questionnaire method, or any of those mentioned above? Okay, so let us know how your product will be accepted to the market. Okay, that's all for now for our lesson. Then you must do the assessment. God bless and keep safe everyone and have a safe day. See you in our Module 2 Quarter 2 lesson on the following video. God bless!